Close your eyes for a moment. Let the soft hum of memories carry you back to a time when the world moved a little slower, when the sun seemed to shine just a little brighter, and the air felt full of the promise of something simpler. A time when the sound of a car engine starting, the clink of glass milk bottles on the doorstep, or the unmistakable ring of a rotary phone could bring back a wave of nostalgia in an instant. The 1970s. A decade that, for many, was a time of carefree innocence, when life was made up of small, familiar rituals that carried a sense of comfort and security. Some of these memories are lost in the shuffle of time, their faces faded, their sounds gone. But they were once the heartbeat of every home, every street, every family in Britain. Today, we're revisiting 10 everyday things every Brit did in the 70s, things that have vanished but left a lasting impression on the hearts of those who lived them. Do any of these bring a smile to your face? Let's journey through them together. The charm of the rotary landline. It wasn't just a phone, it was a lifeline. Back in the 70s, the family phone wasn't a sleek device you slipped into your pocket. It was an imposing, bulky object planted firmly in the hallway. A black rotary dial phone with a coiled cord that always seemed to tangle. The ring was sharp and mechanical, almost like a promise that something, someone, was about to change your day. The act of dialing was a rhythm, a little dance of your fingers that became second nature. One by one, you would turn those numbers, the click, click, click filling the room as each digit spun back into place. If you were lucky enough to get a private moment on the phone, you'd sit close by, perched on the stairs or leaning against the wall, heart racing with anticipation. But of course, privacy was rare. Your siblings might tease you, or worse, your parents would be listening in from the next room. The phone wasn't just about making a call. It was an event, an integral part of everyday life. But over time, the landline gave way to the cordless, then to the mobile phone, and eventually, the smartphone. The world became more connected, but the familiar clink of the rotary dial, the anticipation of who might be calling, it all slipped away. Now, we only have the memory of that ring, that coiled cord wrapped around our fingers, the thrill of hearing a voice on the other end. The green shield stamps, the currency of thrift. Before loyalty cards, before supermarket points, there were green shield stamps, little sticky tokens that were part of every shopping trip. They weren't flashy or glamorous, but they had the power to turn an ordinary day into something special. Families would collect those stamps, carefully licking and sticking them into thick, green-covered books. It became a Sunday ritual. Kids gathered around the table, tongues poking out in concentration as they worked through stacks of stamps. Each book filled with promise of something better. Then came the catalog, a glossy, thick book filled with all sorts of treasures, from kettles to radios to bicycles, each item circled, dreamt of as something that could be yours, just by saving up enough stamps. It wasn't just about getting a toaster or a new set of cutlery. It was about patience, about working towards something bigger. For many, Green Shield stamps represented an aspiration, a family achievement. But as credit cards and loyalty schemes took over, the ritual faded. The books left unfinished, the excitement slowly vanishing. Still, the memory lingers, the taste of the stamps, the joy of picking something from the catalog. The silent test card girl, an odd comfort. Before 24-hour TV, before Netflix, there was the test card. For those who grew up in the 70s, she was a constant, always there, staring back at you from the screen when the TV wasn't showing anything else. She was the test card girl, a child, sitting at a blackboard, her chalk in hand, while a toy clown watched behind her. If you were lucky, you'd wake up early, eager to see cartoons, only to be greeted by her unblinking stare. Sometimes the screen would be filled with strange geometric shapes or droning tones, a sound that for some was oddly comforting, for others unsettling. But one thing was certain. She became part of the fabric of daily life, filling in the gaps between programs, standing guard until the show started. For many families, this was a time before the endless channel hopping, a time when there were only a few channels to choose from, and the moments of stillness, of waiting for the TV to come alive, became part of the experience. The test card girl was there, waiting with you, part of a childhood that seems almost impossible to imagine today. The early morning milk float. There was something magical about the milkman's early morning rounds. Before supermarket plastic cartons and before the plastic was king, there was the humble glass bottle. Delivered fresh, with condensation still beading on the sides, the bottles would arrive on doorsteps in the quiet hours before dawn. They weren't just bottles of milk. They were part of the rhythm of the morning, a comfort, a signal that the day was about to begin. The milkman was a friendly face, someone you could count on. The soft clink of glass as the milk bottles were delivered became a gentle sound of normalcy, a promise of the day ahead. And for children, there was that delicious thick layer of cream that rose to the top of the bottle. You'd sneak your finger into the cream, the cool sweetness on your tongue, a small indulgence before breakfast. But like so many 70s rituals, this one began to fade. Supermarkets replaced the milk floats, and the simple joy of collecting bottles from the doorstep was replaced by bulk shopping. Today, milk deliveries have become a rarity, but for those who remember, that morning ritual still lives in the heart. Clinking glass, shimmering foil, and the taste of fresh cream. School dinners, more than just a meal. For kids, growing up in the 70s, school dinners were a rite of passage. It wasn't just about the food, it was about the experience, the communal ritual of queuing up, metal trays in hand, waiting for the dinner ladies to serve whatever was on the menu that day. The metal trays clattered as you sat down, their compartments perfectly sectioned for meat, potatoes, vegetables, and, of course, pudding. Some meals were remembered with fondness. Hearty roasts, mashed potatoes, and peas that seemed to roll around every corner of the tray. Others, however, are remembered less fondly. Soggy cabbage, gristly meat, and fish fingers that had seen better days. But what everyone agreed on was the pudding. Pink custard, semolina with a blob of jam, sponge cake that steamed as it hit the plate. For many, the pudding was the highlight, the sweet reward after braving, the main course. The smells of boiled vegetables, gravy, and the ever-present scent of disinfectant from freshly cleaned floors. The chatter of hundreds of children, clattering cutlery, and the unmistakable presence of the dinner ladies, keeping the line moving with efficient precision. By the 80s, plastic trays and healthier menus began to replace the old system, and the clatter of metal trays became a sound of the past. But for those who remember, the taste of pink custard and the echoes of laughter and clinking trays are part of a world that has quietly disappeared. Saturday morning cinema clubs, the best part of the week. Saturday mornings in the 70s weren't about lying in. They were about cinema. Across Britain, local picture houses threw open their doors for Saturday morning cinema clubs, where hundreds of kids would pour in, eager for a few hours of adventure, laughter, and chaos. The foyer was filled with the smell of popcorn and ice lollies, excited chatter filling the air as friends jostled to get seats together. Inside, the energy was palpable. The screen flickered to life with cartoons, cowboy films, and adventure stories. The crowd would cheer when the heroes appeared, booing in unison when the villains made their entrance. But it wasn't just about the films, it was about being part of something bigger. A shared experience, a community of children all swept up in the same story. For parents, it was a godsend. An easy way to keep the kids entertained for a couple of hours. But for children, it was pure freedom, a chance to laugh, to share sweets, and to enjoy the thrill of the big screen. By the 80s, VHS tapes and home entertainment systems took over, and the Saturday cinema clubs began to fade away. But for those who remember, the rush of excitement, the rowdy energy, and the shared joy of cinema remain unforgettable. The family car. Not just transport, but adventure. The 70s family car wasn't just a way to get from point A to point B. It was an adventure on wheels. The Ford Cortina, the Mini. They weren't spacious by today's standards, but that didn't matter. Families would cram into them, squashed shoulder to shoulder with no seatbelts, no air conditioning, just the rush of wind through the open windows. The memories are vivid. The sound of the radio crackling to life with hits from ABBA or Slade. The smell of stale air and cigarette smoke, the feeling of freedom as the countryside blurred by. Long summer drives, the car packed with buckets, spades, and a makeshift picnic, all while the kids played I Spy or drifted to sleep in the back. But by the 80s, the family car began to change. Seatbelts became compulsory. Bigger cars replaced the Cortinas and Minis. The chaotic, carefree joy of those family journeys slowly gave way to a more structured, regulated version of travel. But for those who lived it, that small, rattling car wasn't just a vehicle. It was childhood, family, and freedom all packed into one noisy, magical ride. Smoke and mirrors. The world of cigarettes in the 70s. Cigarettes were everywhere in the 70s. They were woven into the fabric of daily life. In pubs, offices, on buses, and trains, smoke was inescapable. It was normal to see parents lighting up after dinner, the clink of a Zippo lighter opening, and the haze rising from ashtrays everywhere. Even doctors and teachers smoked openly. The smell was part of the air you breathed. The scent of tobacco clinging to clothes, hair, and furniture. Running errands to the shop with a note from mom, asking for 20 Benson and Hedges. The smoke was a constant companion. But as the 80s and 90s rolled in, health campaigns started to shift attitudes. Laws were put in place to restrict smoking in public spaces, and by 2007, smoking in pubs and restaurants was banned altogether. The haze that once filled the air slowly dissipated. But for those who lived it, the memory of a world where smoke was ever present is impossible to forget. The magic of street play. Freedom in every game. In the 70s, the streets were our playground. After school, kids spilled out of their homes, filling the streets with the sounds of laughter, shouting, and the occasional clatter of a makeshift drum or shield. Football with jumpers for goalposts, skipping ropes stretched across the road, and impromptu bike races that left scrapes and bruises as badges of honor. The street was where you found freedom. The rule was simple. Be back by the time the streetlights came on. The glow of those lamps was the unspoken clock of childhood, marking the end of play and the start of bedtime. But as cars became more common and the streets grew busier, the games began to fade. Kids spent more time indoors, glued to televisions and video games, and the shouts of children playing in the street became a distant memory. The family TV, more than just entertainment. The TV of the 70s was more than just a screen. It was a gathering place. There were no remotes, no endless channels. Just 3, maybe 4, and everyone gathered around it. The whole family, together, sharing the same programs. The smell of dinner lingering in the air, children sprawled on the carpet, waiting for the next show to begin. TV wasn't just entertainment, it was a shared experience, a collective moment in time. But as time passed, more channels came, more TVs were added to the house, and eventually, on-demand streaming scattered families into separate rooms. The warmth of family nights gathered around one set faded into history. For those who remember, those evenings remain some of the most special moments of childhood. The 1970s were filled with small, everyday rituals that seemed ordinary at the time, but have since become symbols of a simpler, more connected way of life. Whether it was the anticipation of the rotary phone's ring, the quiet comfort of the milkman's visit, or the joy of Saturday morning cinema, these were moments that formed the fabric of our childhood. Today, these rituals are gone, replaced by new technologies, new habits, and a faster-paced world. Yet the memories of those simpler times remain, vivid, golden, and untouchable. They are the echoes of a generation that lived a little slower, that savored the small moments of connection and community. If any of these memories stirred something in you, share them with us in the comments. Let's keep these memories alive together. And if you want more trips down memory lane, don't forget to subscribe. We'll keep the nostalgia rolling, one memory at a time. Relive your cherished memories. Watch our video now and take a journey down memory lane. Don't miss out. Like, comment, and subscribe to stay connected and be a part of this nostalgic experience.